So go ahead and hit them with the quote from the director.
All right. So this time she says, same thing I said last time, fool.
You're listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, where HIPAA and humor collide to make learning fun. Your delightful hosts are Donna Grindle and David Sims. Relax. HIPAA help is on the way.
Welcome to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast. This is the last one of 2024.
Whoa.
Another year in the can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we're going to end this one talking about phishing fails, SRA woes, and OCR hammer, because they are dishing out stuff like candy at a Christmas parade.
They've been working on all those SRA and enforcement initiatives. They've been busy. They're trying to get all of them out.
I know. It's like, one after the other hitting my inbox. So we're going to go through some of them today.
3.
Maybe. Yeah. By the time we get done recording, there'll probably be another one in our inbox.
All right. Well, I just finished typing up the first 2 with our notes for the blog post for us to record, and go to my inbox, and there's the 3rd one.
Exactly. So, yeah, it's going to be crazy, but fun at the end of the year. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about it. So before we dive into that, though, I do want to say thanks to those of you who listen all the time, because we know you're out there. If you want to know more about Donna and myself and what we do to pay the bills, you can go to helpmewithhipaa.com, and you can find Cardin there, as well as Security First IT or HIPAA for MSPs. We're all there waiting for you. Come check us out. All right. Any other news? Are you ready to drop any announcements or anything before we dive in?
I should probably think of something, but I got nothing right now.
All right, then. Well, let's dive into these 3 big announcements in almost as many days.
I know. I'm pretty sure it's pretty close. It's all been within a week, and we don't normally see 3 in a month, many months. So, yeah, 3. And, we're going to do the big money first, and then kind of the big money last. But it wasn't really the big money, but it was the big money. And but all of them, relate to the security risk analysis. They're all coming back. They're bringing it back, and they're putting these headlines on here now. And so the first one is Gulf Coast Pain Consultants, who are also known as Clearway Pain Solutions Institute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And, there's some irony there with pain.
I know.
But anyway.
You're a pain in my... But anyway, they're in Florida. And so they got hit with a big one.
A painful one.
Yeah. The headline is Systemic HIPAA Security Rule Violations Lead to OCR's 6th penalty of the year. Meaning, this is not a settlement. This is a penalty. And it was $1,190,000 for and so because it's not a settlement, they're just paying that amount, no corrective action plan, nothing. And
wow.
That's the one, where everybody tells you about the $1 million. That's if they go ahead and fine you. Those are what the fines look like. And they give us all the details in these because they issue a letter of proposed determination and then a final determination that says, yep, what we said we're doing. But this one was a particularly bad one, and that's also why I think so, because there was a breach because a former contractor for the company. So they hired this contractor as a business consultant for a year. And it was like May to April. So May 2018 to April 2019. Well, they must have like gotten in the good graces during their tenure, because for some reason, beginning in September through February, they were downloading patient files to use for fraudulent claims.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. The unauthorized access, they were impermissibly accessing on 3 separate occasions 34,310 individuals that then were used to file these claims. Now, granted, they were Medicare fraud, so, I don't know. It says here 6,500 false claims were filed.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, so they had to pluck out the Medicare patients out of there and then file them. So still, money for nothing, I guess is what we want. And your drinks for free. But the contractor's contract officially ended, but they didn't terminate their access. Yeah.
Can't say I hadn't seen that before.
Yeah. So they figured it out, in April. And, April, that's when it happened. Gulf Coast sends in their breach notification because in August they figure out what's happened. Right. Mm-hmm. And so here we are 5 years later. In August of this year is the proposed determination. And they sign off on their 1.19 million, and so the penalty is based on how, first they classify these violations that they identify. And they said, based on their investigation, there were 4 violations. So each violation is going to get a penalty assigned to it. So conduct an accurate and thorough risk analysis. We hear that one all the time. Mm-hmm. Procedures to regularly review records of activity and information systems. Procedures to terminate former workforce members' access. And procedures for establishing and modifying workforce members' access to information system. Onboarding and termination are checklists.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't catch them when they were in there doing it. They didn't look into a risk analysis on anything. And then they didn't have termination onboarding, which is what caused this. Right. So we got our OCR director quote, though, and they all sound similar in this.
They do.
Yeah.
She's probably sitting there going, I don't know how many other ways I can say this.
Yeah. Well, it's always that somebody else is having to write that crap. Right.
Yeah,
and she's like,
true.
Okay, yeah, that's what I say.
That sounds good. I'll go with that.
Yeah.
All right. So this one is current and former workforce can present threats to healthcare privacy and security, risking continuity of care and trust in our healthcare system. Effective cybersecurity and compliance with the HIPAA security rule means being proactive in reviewing who has access to health information and responding quickly to suspected security incidents.
Huh. Well, that didn't happen. So.
And thus why we are here.
Yeah. So, according to this, they did discover the unauthorized access in February, and they cut them off, and, they figured it all out. But then why would you not make sure that you remove their access because of what they were doing? You would think that would be a priority.
Yeah.
So I'm not quite sure. But anyway, you submit a breach like that, yeah, we had 5 that had false claims sent in. Yeah, we're looking into you. So 34,000, and who knows what they did with the rest of them. So here's how they calculated it. And the first part is determining the severity. What is your culpability? It's not how much money first. It's how culpable are you in this? What is the severity of what you've done? Mm-hmm. So you violated multiple provisions, and the violations, they categorize them under willful neglect. do not want to be willful neglect.
Mm-mm.
So they failed to conduct a risk analysis and implement access controls, which led to the breach. And there was clearly harm because the individuals, they're like, first we look at the nature and extent, then the harm. Well, you're going to have some financial issues for those patients for sure if that has happened. And the duration of the noncompliance, they only accounted for the 2 years that all this went on. But if they didn't do it in 2018, 2019, they probably didn't do it in 2016. Well, 2017, 2016, you know what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're allowed to apply a per violation penalty for each day they're non-compliant. And this is the thing that we have a hard time getting people to understand. So first of all, you have to have willful neglect tier, which is the highest penalties. And that's where you have the 1.5 million or whatever the adjusted is for inflation.
Yeah.
And
it's 2 point something now, 2.3 or something.
It's on up there now. But that willful neglect tier is not where you want to be. And the fact that you can do per violation per day. And you look at, okay, they didn't terminate the person for several months, that alone, right? And so they noticed the corrective actions that they have taken, and they said they appeared limited or insufficient to fully mitigate the violations. Another thing you do not want to do is that if you're like this, you want to show we've learned our lesson and we're changing a lot of things. We're doing all these things different.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what they considered to get to the 1.19. So they call it the willful neglect not corrected. The highest, the worst you can get. So
you win.
Yeah. So the bare minimum penalty they can charge them by law is the current adjusted is $60,226.
Mm-hmm.
And and then it all depends on what year things happen. So during 2018, 2019, it was 1.8 million per year. So they're saying, okay, you were non-compliant over a 2-year period. We got daily penalties. So they went through and said, okay, we're going to put everything together and we're going to get a dollar amount that is mid-range for willful neglect here. Mid-range. We're not going to do the bad, but we're also not going to do the smallest. We're going to do right in the middle. Goldilocks loves that one. And it was just right. And so they take into account then the total number of days. So you got 730 days and $1,280 a day for each of the 4 violations. So that makes each of them $934,400.
Wow. Times 4.
Times 4. So that's what it could have been, but there is a cap. So they did 1.19. They consolidated all of it and said, well, cap it, and here it is. And it's because you had a high number of individuals. You had, fraud claims, which then forced a whole nother investigation. And people probably still having problems because you know how long those get messed up. And they did cooperate. They didn't contest anything, but they also didn't do anything about it. Yeah. So they set it just below the maximum allowable for the violations. Now, my question is, if it is the maximum is 1.8 per year, they could have done per year and doubled that, one would think, because the cap is per year and they had 2 years. So they did it just below the cap for 1 year.
So do they take the current numbers or do they go back to when the incident occurred? Like in this case, I guess 2012 2019.
Yeah, because if they found something, well, now they wouldn't look into it, but if they found something before the increased funds in high tech, they couldn't apply the high tech numbers.
Right.
They would have to apply those. So I believe they are still then going and saying, what was the penalty at that time? And then that's what they're doing. So every year you're just getting worse. But I don't know. So they could have, done maximum penalties for a lot of things and then done 2 years. It could have been way worse, So way more money. They're just not bringing down the hammer as hard.
Right.
But it did hit.
Mm-hmm.
Very solid. Don't know if it rang the bell or not.
Yeah.
I would hope so. You're full of information all of a sudden.
Yeah, I just, there's so many other questions about this because, did DOJ get called in on this?
Yeah, they did, and somehow that person didn't get convicted. I don't know how, because it seems like they had everything they needed, but it did mention that somewhere in there that the person did get charged with the, the criminal side of HIPAA, but. I don't know. It seems to me that there's so many other variables for that consultant. They probably were a BA. They should have gotten hit with that. And so they must have had a really good lawyer, or they flipped.
Huh.
Because I bet they weren't doing it by themselves.
That's an interesting take.
Yeah.
Might be right on that.
Yeah. I didn't go look it up, but... I had too much already, but I am curious, and it is one where I made a note of. I need to go take care of that.
Yeah, because you just don't see these that often, and so it always makes you question. Why did it go down this path?
Yeah. So to me, I did the same as you. But then I don't have the answer, so I wasn't going to go into it.
You're just going to let me look at it sideways. All right.
Should have known.
Well, let's jump over to something we hopefully know a little bit more about, which is the number 2 one. Children's Hospital, Colorado. Yeah, they get a slightly better deal, right?
Yeah, theirs is a little better. But the headlines, multiple HIPAA violations lead to OCR's 7th penalty of the year. So go ahead and hit them with the quote from the director.
All right. So this time she says, same thing I said last time, fool. So she says, email continues to be a very common way for cyber attackers to enter health information systems and jeopardize privacy and security. And I'll just add, is a common way in every area, not just health information systems.
Yes.
Yeah. Protect that email. So we'll continue. Healthcare entities should identify potential risks and vulnerabilities to email accounts and train their workforce to protect health information in those accounts, which I might even add, or I will add, don't put any information in those accounts.
This is why I always say it. And everybody's like, well, how do we do it? Well, there's a lot of other ways.
Yeah. How about you don't?
Yeah. Just don't do it. And if you stop doing it, go get rid of all the ones that are in there, or at least periodically purge it. Something.
Yeah. I had somebody call me last week and they were like, we need to know how to get HIPAA compliant email. And I was like, don't do it.
But if it's HIPAA compliant, aren't we okay, David?
I mean, yeah. It's like you're already asking the wrong questions. So just don't do it.
Mm-hmm. And I'm 100% just whenever I have any conversations with them, with people who are asking me about that, I'm like, I got nothing. The most important thing is that you shouldn't be doing it at all.
Yeah. It definitely falls under just because you can doesn't mean you should category.
Indeed. So that's what happened to these folks, and they didn't learn from it. And this is why we're always trying to say, learn from it. So they actually had 3 different accounts.
Oh, boy.
In 2 different attacks. So they had first a 2017 attack with the physician's email account compromised, and it had 3,370 patients in it. And remember, this is a children's hospital. So you know how much more valuable a child's identity is.
Yeah, no kidding.
This breach occurred because the hospital's IT help desk previously disabled 2-factor authentication on this particular account and then failed to reactivate it.
Huh.
How many times do we say to technical folks, you need to have, anytime you're messing with security, you need to have a checklist documenting that you did it, why you did it, and that you fixed it.
Yeah. But I do wonder,
yes,
if said physician
might have complained.
What is like, get this crap off of my computer. I can't get any work done because of this stupid 2FA thing. Get it done. Yeah. Take it off. Take it off. Remove it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
But see, that's why I would want this statement to say, if that were the case, the physician demanded it be removed.
Yeah. Well,
but yeah.
Now you're talking about a physician versus IT help desk superhero. I mean, who are you going to believe?
Right? So we all know, under the bus. But especially back in 2017, you're almost, I would say, 95% right? I mean, there's a chance. But back then, when we were first trying to force it on people because they needed it, and this is why.
You still have these conversations.
Yep.
I had one recently, not a healthcare. This was interesting. I don't know why, but I'll just tell the short story.
I don't know why.
Employee emails in and says, I need you to remove the security that you have on my machine that does not allow me to install software. And then goes on to talk about how ridiculous it is. They have to go through help desk to get it done. I need an admin account. And then we pulled up that person's past tickets, and I'm like, this same guy asked for the same thing like 9 months ago.
Yeah, it sounds familiar. Did it happen again?
Yeah. So I was like, just respond to him and say, we've already had this conversation. We're not doing it unless, the owner signs off on the security waiver so that we have proof that, we can throw you under the bus when something happens.
Right.
So we emailed the executive assistant to the owner and said, hey, this guy's asking for admin rights again. What do you want to do? The response was, he's been terminated. You can ignore that ticket. Like, what?
Oh.
Now, I don't know if it had anything to do with it, but I mean, this all happened in like a 1 hour time frame. So it was like, I don't know what happened, but I like to think that the person was like, how dare you want admin rights? We're going to fire you for that. But I know it probably was something different.
Well, yeah. Well, my question is, were they already fired when they called and tried to get them?
That crossed my mind. Like, what is he trying to do? That he asked for that and then mysteriously was fired within an hour.
Yeah. I would say he was already fired and was trying to get it to be, and that would be an important thing to find out because they should know that if he is. But that's just one woman's opinion.
Well, they should also probably have contacted us before he did.
I know.
To say he was terminated and remove his access.
Well, yeah, and the next time they tell you, well, we never have to call you.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, a disgruntled fired employee almost got in if it weren't for us.
So when people ask us, why do you have this thing on there that, we have to jump through these hoops to install software? There you go. That's why. because, this person's been a client for several years, and there's no telling what this may have stopped. And it wasn't a hacker. Mm-mm. It was potentially a malicious employee.
Well, I mean, and that was just in the previous case.
I won't say who the client is, but let's just say they are very, very well known in lots of circles, and it would have been nasty looking.
Oh. Wow. Well, good.
Yes.
Good. Your systems worked. But yeah, they should be working on a termination checklist.
Yeah. So anyway, back to 2FA account being disabled and not reactivated, which I tend to lean toward maybe not the IT person's fault, but
yeah, well, the IT person did it and gave in. Whatever reason they did it.
Yep.
And now it's their fault. Hopefully they documented it if that was the case.
Well,
yeah. I would make sure that
it's
like you say, I want a signature.
Yeah, because I just want to know when I need to tell the truth, when it's asked of me, I want to have documentation that backs up my story. Mm-hmm. You can make any business decision you want. I just want it in writing so we know what we agreed on.
Yeah. So in 2017, they did report that breach, and there was an investigation, and they did give them the risk analysis as part of that. And during that, they told them that this did not meet the security rule requirements and that it was neither accurate nor thorough because they didn't account for all the locations and systems and all of those kinds of things. Mm-hmm. So they told them that in June 2018. And they provided what they call technical assistance, which is they give them all of the guidance and training that is released, the NIST guidebook, all of those things. And they say, here's where all the information is so that you can go do it right.
Yeah. So it's not done for you, technical assistance.
No. I think that's what everybody wants. I know that's what everybody wants.
It's do-it-yourself technical assistance.
Yeah. And so that was in June 2018. But for some reason, it's got to be that there was something left hanging that needed to be answered in the investigation. And they maybe followed up. I don't know. Because there's no explanation that I could figure out why it said in April 2019 that the hospital then informed OCR that they had found that they had not been training all their nurses, the nursing students, even though that was their job. So there were, and I should go double check, triple check, and quadruple check that the lack of training impacted 6,666 workforce members, including 3,495 nursing students. So from 2013 to 2018, they weren't really training anybody.
Oh, wow.
It's what it was.
I can't.
Sounds like. An OCR asked them some questions and they admitted to it and they were non-compliant. But I don't know why that's just stuck in there.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah. Anyway, so that exchange took place. So we've already told them they had a bad risk analysis and here's what you should go do. And they've told them they're not doing training well enough. So they've been told. And then here we go. Additional email accounts were hit with a phishing attack for what they now call. So they call it the 2017 breach and then the 2020 breach. So the 2020 breach had 10,840 individuals, but here we get back to this was facilitated by a fraudulent MFA request, and the two staff members, and this one is so the first one was one account, and now this one's two, so a total of 3 accounts over these years. They just said yeah.
Huh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is this you? Yeah.
Really?
Why would you do that?
So they have, just to talk through this for those who might not be following. So it sounds like, sometimes you can have MFA that pops up in your phone, or you go to it or whatever, and it gives you a code and you have to enter the code. The other times it's something that pops up on your phone and you just say yes or no, whatever. So it sounds like in this case, it was one of those yes, no ones.
Yeah.
Like, is this you? Yes or no, or whatever.
Yeah. So here, let's tell the story. Let's complete the storyline we started.
Okay.
They removed it because people hated it, because they didn't like entering the code. So they got the one that you do yes and no on so that people wouldn't hate it so much. And guess what happened? Still had a breach.
Yeah. So, I mean, security is not convenient. In some cases, security should not be convenient.
Yeah. It was just like, I'm just like, that's got to be, the steps they went through.
I mean, think about it. Let's think about security here for a second. Like, what is the function of security? It is there to slow you down. Right? Like, I mean, I can't think of any security that's there that actually speeds up your ability to access something. So if you're doing something that doesn't slow them down substantially, you have to question, is it effective security? Yes.
You must ask that question.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I got a lock on my door, but as long as somebody just presses the right button, it just unlocks.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Right. Well, yeah, that'd be a perfect one. Like, I've got a lock on the door and it's set to the default code. Well, then it's not slowing anybody down.
No.
Because not to a degree that's meaningful. No. So if you've got MFA or 2FA or any of the other FAs, FA, I would go with the one that has a little bit of a friction point to it, because you don't want to make it so easy that somebody doesn't slow down long enough to think.
Right. And that's exactly the whole point, is that friction point needs to be there, because I want you to confirm this is you.
Right.
So they didn't. They just said yes.
Yeah, it's me. I get these all the time. I just say yes. Just click yes. It'll go away.
If you're not sitting right there doing it. Anyway.
Yeah. It does make you wonder, though, have they gotten these in the past and just said yes?
Yeah. Well, we do know they did now, because this was reported.
Yeah. Well, you also have, we talked about this before too, is where they start hitting these MFA codes on your phone constantly until you finally do answer yes.
Yeah. So there's got to be some point where you recognize it and you don't just say yes to make it go away. Right.
Yeah.
But that gets back to training your staff to get them to understand that this can happen.
In which they weren't doing that either.
Right. So this meant another investigation. Good news is that so they opened an investigation in October 2020. In February, they submit an updated risk analysis that it was deemed to be compliant with HIPAA standards. It was a good one. But apparently it was done after the incident.
Still, like, show me a copy of it.
Yeah, show me your most recent and then one before that. So show me your most recent, and if that was since the incident, show me one before the incident. That's a pretty common thing they ask for.
Yeah, which one was in place when the incident happened?
Right. Well, apparently not a thing. Because February 5th, 2021 is when they submitted the compliant one. And they're saying from May 1st, 2017 to February 5th, 2021, they did not do one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So from the time they gave them all of that, good news, here, we're not going to do anything, but you need to go do your risk analysis. Then, they didn't really push that boundary at all.
So you can't do one every 4 or 5 years?
Or if you've already been told the one that you have is not adequate, don't keep doing that. Doing more of the same thing will get the same result, right?
Yep. Just do it harder.
Yeah. And so they told them, look, you still didn't do this. after we ask you to do this. And they really were like, yeah, we got nothing. Apparently, because they went to civil money penalty and got to a $548,265. So less than 1.19 million, substantially less. However, still a number that would make us want to, have like physical negative response.
Yeah. Throw up.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not good. But theirs was not willful neglect. They were doing things. Right? And so with theirs, it was determined to be reasonable cause. The covered entity knew or would have known that this was a violation, but you weren't acting with willful neglect. You were just not acting enough. So that's nice, which is way better than willful neglect, which is why it's half the amount of money on the penalty part. So when you look at that, they said, okay, now we have reasonable cause. Now we have to calculate the number of days. So 2017 to 2021, the workforce training 2013 to 2018, they already admitted to. And then you had the impermissible disclosure in 2020. And with reasonable cause, they said it was used because the violations, while significant, were not determined to have been caused by willful neglect, a conscious or reckless disregard for compliance. And that's a key statement. Don't have any appearance of a conscious or reckless disregard for your obligation to comply. That makes a $500,000 difference right there, right off the top.
Wow.
And it's capped at $100,000 annually with the adjustments, right? So they ended up with $348,265 from 2017 to 2021. And then $100,000 for the training, and then another $100,000 for the improper disclosure, impermissible disclosure. And that's how they got to that number. But the $348,265, again, you've got 4 years there, or almost 4 years, or they could have gone more, it looks like. They still didn't. So they just paid the piper. And off they went. So far, no corrective action plan.
Huh. So what do you think's going to happen?
We're setting it up for you now. Because this one is really interesting where the corrective action plan is in play. Because this is hot off the presses. This is the one that just came in. And you say the name of that, because we've been trying to figure out what the name of the place is.
I think it's Immediata.
Yeah,
Health Group?
Yeah, that's what I keep trying to get at. Immediata Health Group. Yeah. We're going to go with that. All right.
Yeah.
So
this looks like that. It's spelled that way.
Yeah. So this one has $250,000 settlement resolves long-standing HIPAA security rule failures. Now, that's kind of important to note. This is a clearinghouse. Had some major issues. Go ahead and hit us with the quote there, and then we'll explain what happened.
All right. So the OCR director says, healthcare entities must ensure that they are not leaving patient health information accessible online to anyone with an internet connection. Effective cybersecurity means being proactive and vigilant in searching for risks and vulnerabilities to health data and preventing unauthorized access to patient health information.
So that gives you a clue.
Yeah. So what was happening online?
Yeah. So November 2018, OCR gets a complaint filed that this person's data is available online on the public internet. And OCR's investigation substantiated the allegations. So,
yep, we Googled it. We see it too.
From May 16th, 2016 to January 23rd, 2019, a long time. And over 1.5 million individuals were involved. Publicly available, indexed, and cached by search engines.
Ouch.
So they were letting it control, they were being crawled even. Yeah. Ouch.
Yeah. Gotta stop the crawling or your data might learn to walk.
Yeah, no. If you're letting it crawl, it will walk. That's for sure. The investigation found multiple potential HIPAA security rule violations, including failures by Inmediata to conduct a compliant risk analysis, to monitor and review health systems activity. Sounds familiar? We've been talking about that, but here's where this one veers off into its own little world. They are paying OCR $250,000. And we might say, 1.5 million people? Only 250? Because OCR is just a tiny piece of a giant settlement that was done with 33 states' attorneys general, where they agreed to pay $1.4 million that's divided across all the states, and a 5-year corrective action plan.
Holy cow.
That is much more specific than anything OCR can do because of their scenario. They can't, put very specific controls and requirements because they can't go outside of HIPAA. But the attorneys generals, they can. And boy, did they. If you go read that corrective action plan, and we'll put a link in, it will hit a little bit of it, but there's a lot in there. But it even included a code review of their websites, anything that's public facing, and like a policy to not allow crawling of websites that could have patient data on it, because you could have blocked that from the first place. And then all of these very specific requirements about multi-factor authentication and network segmentation and all of these other things that is basically hiccup.
Yeah.
So, but 5 years worth of reporting. By a third-party assessor every year. Not like you going, yeah, we're good. So, yeah, no wonder OCR was like, we'll just take our money and move on.
Yeah, no kidding.
Because their focus is on compliance.
Right.
And that settlement, the commitments for those 5 years, that's going to do exactly, we're talking getting close to CPG level kind of commitments, having to have a written incident response plan because they didn't have one. Those are important things. So also no security risk analysis. And I would wager that most places that we initially engage with will have problems with those two huge things. Almost certainly. Now, there's a lot of other things they won't have. They'll have some things. It's like, it's assessment season for us. I keep reading assessments. It's first time through for a lot of these clients that I've been doing lately. And, because the ones that have been with us for years, it's a whole lot easier to do because I already know where to find all the answers. And these folks are always, well, we do that. We just don't write it down. Okay. So, yeah. But what is the core message across all three of these that OCR wants us to get, David?
It's about the SRA, folks.
That's right. So it is not a check the box, hand it off to IT. That is not how it works. Just today, I was explaining the difference and not able to have a long conversation, but I'm like, those IT evaluations that you get, that many people think are the SRA, are an element of the SRA. Also, those HIPAA gap analysis to see if you're meeting the HIPAA requirements is not an SRA. It can be an element of it, but it is not one.
When it comes to IT, the way I explain it that seems to make sense to people is I always tell people the IT is not doing it for you. Like they're doing it with you.
Yes.
So anybody who comes in and says, we did an SRA for you, that's wrong.
And we say that in ours right off the bat. This is not like we come in and do it all for you. It's a hybrid approach. We do certain things, you do certain things. I don't know how you run your business.
Yeah. You got 3 choices. You can do it yourself. You can have somebody do it with you, or you can even have somebody do it for you, but that is going to be probably super duper expensive because you probably have to bring them in, put them on payroll or whatever, because they're going to have to dedicate, I'm sure you could probably, or you, not that you can't do it. You can do it, Donna. It's just that it is so expensive. Most people don't want you to do it all for them. They want you to do that until you give them the price and they're like, oh, I can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're going to have to fly me there because I'm going to need to have access to all your people. I'm going to have to schedule some meetings. I'm going to need access to all of your IT and la, 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 la. Yeah, and you're talking easily, 3-4 weeks that you're going to have to put me up to do all of that analysis because I'll know nothing. If I knew something going in, it'd be a little different, but I don't know how you run your business. So now I'm going to have to go talk to everybody. So, anyway.
So it's extensive. So, and that's the way these corrective action plans are. They're, they're do it yourself, but they're a little bit of a done with you because they give you some guidance and they, check it off as you go or whatever. So it is much better to put yourself on what I now call a VCAP. The voluntary corrective action plan. And,
that's what we specialize in.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
I had that recent conversation with somebody, and I was like, "Need to call Carden. Need to get on the VCAP." So that's what you should do, and you should look at it that way. Even if you don't have a problem, don't wait until something happens and then go, "Oh, we should probably put ourselves on a voluntary group." Just go ahead and start it now. Because that's going to get you to where you need to be so that you have a proper SRA and you're doing the right things. And then you can be in maintenance mode from that point.
Right. And I can assure you that while the first 2 didn't go into any kind of settlement that was made in any other lawsuit, there was one. There were other lawsuits, let me just say. Whether there's a settlement or anything else happened in them, there were other lawsuits. And they had to deal with those. They can't have that many people and that much going on that they weren't dealing with additional ones above and beyond this, which is what we always tell you. So if your risk analysis is outdated, if it never happened, or it hasn't been done in a long time, it's incomplete, meaning if you don't know that it's complete, it's probably incomplete. Yeah. If it's IT focused only, it's incomplete. And there is a video that OCR published. I'm trying to figure out how to do some more with it, but nothing about this is exciting information. So
it is for me. Well, it is important to because we talk a little bit about mindset. I mean, our closer on the show is always talking about, it's not about compliance, it's about patient care. It's about having the proper mindset, and a proper SRA isn't just about avoiding the fines. It's about protecting your patients, your organization, your reputation. Have the mindset that you're not going, oh, I'm just doing this because compliance and I have to do it. No, the compliance thing is a side effect of doing what you should be doing anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just one of the risks you face is failure to comply.
Right.
There's so many other impacts to your business beyond this failure to comply. That's what I try to get people to see.
Yeah. So, I mean, there are a lot of different places where HIPAA has no rule of law, and people still do all these same things because they're trying to protect their customers and their business and their reputation. And so they just do it. That's the right thing to do. Just do the right thing. Don't worry about the fact that it's quote unquote compliance. Compliance is the side effect of doing the right thing.
Yeah, well, tell you what, the side effect of my day and the way it's been is it's time for me to go get bourbon.
That will make you a more compliant person, I'm sure. All right, folks, that is our last show of the year. We'll see you next year. Be safe. And remember, the HIPAA is not about compliance. It's about patient care.
Help me with HIPAA. Let's get it right. Protect your patients day and night. Donna and David, the experts on your side. Help me with HIPAA. Let's get it right.
You've been listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, hosted by Donna Grindle and David Sims. The show created to help you with HIPAA. For more information or to ask us a question, visit our website at helpmewithhipaa.com. Neither Donna Grindle or David Sims are attorneys, and they do not offer binding legal advice concerning regulatory compliance. The information in this podcast should not be relied upon or construed as legal advice in any way. Consult your attorney for legal advice concerning compliance with HIPAA regulations.